Hi, film addicts. Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we have an amazing guest for you. We have Chris Dowling. He's an award-winning writer and director whose latest film, Blue Miracle, which stars Dennis Quaid, is top 2 film in the world on Netflix for weeks. Oh my gosh. And his next film, Acid Man, is premiering in Quebec in June. Let's welcome Chris to the show. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Merlin. How are you?
So nice to have you on the show today. Yeah, you have a lot going on. My gosh, congratulations on Blue Miracle. It's a miracle, but that's kicking butt in the box office, right? or on streaming.
Yeah, streaming. We'll take it. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because you have the movies that go into the box office, which I've had numerous, and then you're lucky if, like, say a movie does $7 million, maybe 1 million people saw it if you're lucky. But there's upside, and then obviously you do something with Netflix, and 120 million people can see it, and there's no real upside other than obviously it's amazing to get your work out there. So that's been a new one for me, was kind of get it out there, and the fact that we did get so many eyeballs on it is pretty cool.
Yeah, and so we'll talk more about that, but we want to can you tell our listeners where I'm recording with you today? Are you in LA or?
So we moved to Dallas. We were in LA for 24 years, and as of 14 months, we're in like McKinney, Texas, which is like kind of far north Dallas, and we're loving it. Well, we're pretty much loving it. I'd say I got 2 daughters. I got a 14 and 11-year-old. They miss their friends and stuff. So we are doing the road trip back to LA for a month in the summer. It's been great. It's been a great move for us, and I was really worried if work, how that would be, and it's been busier than ever. So it's just been solid.
Yeah, and so why Texas? You leave LA to go to Texas? Did you have friends there, or that's just?
Yeah, well, so I grew up in Richardson, which is in Dallas, and I moved out when I was 18. Moved out to LA, so I got family here. And then it was kind of what we were looking for, just some, good change from LA, like just nice people and a little more open space. And, we're really into just being able to kind of have our freedom and be, kind of do our thing. And so my wife and I, we talked about it. We looked at Nashville because a lot of, folks are moving to Nashville, and it's just cool the way the industry, I mean, what the pandemic did, it kind of opened Pandora's box, and all these people left. And man, I looked around and I had all these working actors and executives and all these people that were they were gone from LA. So, my wife and I started really considering it for the first time. And since then, it's been crazy how many people I've met here. And I do a lot of work in Nashville. How many people in Nashville, Austin? And it's just it's coming. I mean, it's not stopping. So
Yeah, so that's my next question. So did you grow up in Texas? Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, in Richardson, which is 30 minutes from where I am now. And it was awesome, which is another thing. I loved my childhood growing up. So getting my daughters back here was something that was it was really cool. I mean, obviously it's super different too. It's great because I'm such an 80s freak in general. And if we're talking about movies or music, it's pretty much all 80s for me. And my daughters, I don't know if that's because of me or because they're just over it, but they're like, man, the 80s was the time to grow up. Your childhood was so much better than ours. And I'm like, you know what? You might be right. These phones and we just go out and play and stuff. It's just man, it was just so anyways, it brought back a lot of memories and good vibes and feelings just being here. And so it was a good call.
Oh, nice. And so growing up, did you have a favorite childhood film?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. At what point would I say my first favorite film? Man, I've always loved and will always love Adventures in Babysitting. I don't know when that was. I don't know if that was my first favorite, but my favorite movie to this day, which is honestly because of watching it for the first time in 6th grade, it was I think one of the ones where I was like, I want to make movies, was Stand By Me.
Oh, beautiful.
That's probably my favorite movie of all time. And I'm going to turn this air on real quick. But yeah, anyways, Stand By Me is probably my favorite movie. But honestly, it is kind of it's born from that moment. It was cool because I was in that same age as those kids, as the boys in there, and it's this coming. And I love coming of age movies now, so it's I don't know, and it was my first R-rated movie to watch. I remember my buddy Peter Walker's mom had to call my mom to see if it was okay, and it all worked out. And I don't know, so something magical about watching that movie that always stuck with me, and it was just so good. And I've watched it time and time again, and it's still my favorite.
Yeah. Do your girls have a favorite film of theirs that they like?
Man, they are so funny because I'm sure if you ask them the last kind of big one that they loved, they loved Greatest Showman, of course. So that's one that they still dig, but they really got into Death on the Nile. My older one, we went and watched that, the Kenneth Branagh movie, and it was just gorgeous and beautiful. But my oldest one loved it, and that sent her now watching a bunch of murder mystery movies. Like even last night, she watched the Adam Sandler, Jennifer Aniston murder mystery just because she searched up murder mystery on Netflix, and that's what popped up. But it was Death on the Nile that kind of took her in there.
Oh,
So
wow. Well, yeah. And then, did you have a film that maybe inspired you from the Criterion Collection? Said, "Hey, I want to be a director. That's what I want to do. I want to write movies like that."
I don't know. It's like one of those things where it's just a collection of the. Other than like Stand by Me, which I don't even. Hopefully it's on the Criterion. I don't know what's actually there and what's not, but like the just the idea of I think it started with wanting to act in movies first, like being a kid and being like, man, it'd be amazing if you do all those magical things. And then as you got older, being like, I was writing a lot of stuff, like just like short stories and whatever, poetry, and passing around to the little girls in my school and stuff, and thinking I was smart. But it was like writing and stuff kind of got me into like really wanting to be like, okay, like as I got older, then and then we graduated to where we had like my dad's big VHS Sony camcorder, and we go make our little films, and you'd have to like edit in the video camera, like you had to shoot everything sequentially, and then just line it all up, and it was, I think it was around then, and I was like, this is something I really want to do. It's funny because my parents always thought like I was the very rigid by the rules one in my family. My brother was always the wild child, and so they thought for sure like I was going into something like accounting or something very regimented, and so they still talk about. They're still shocked that because as fun and sexy as we want to act like independent filmmaking is, it's a grind, especially now being in my 40s and having done it for 20 years. And I'm fortunate because I've been able to to do it, but man, it's not an easy journey for sure, especially when you have a family and a mortgage and kids with braces and all kinds of stuff starting to pile up.
So you were this young boy growing up in Texas in this beautiful small town, and you're watching Stand by Me. So how do you start writing these short stories and poetry? Did you go to college? Like, what was your journey like? How do you go? Did you go to college in Texas and then you came out to LA, or?
Yeah, I had a really interesting journey with that. Actually, I went to University of Texas for one semester, and like so many kids my age, I made the mistake where my best friend had moved immediately to LA to be an actor, and I went to go visit him over winter break, and I came back and I said, "Yep, I'm moving to LA. I'm done." So I left Texas, moved to LA at 18, and then I split the difference. I still went to junior colleges out there. Got a call from an old coach that was now coaching college basketball the next year back in Texas, and asked me if I want to play college basketball. And I'm like, yeah, of course I'm gonna give that a shot. So came back, played college basketball, interned in the summers back in LA, and then as soon as I graduated, I went back to UT Austin, and then I moved back out to LA when I was, I guess, 21 or 22 at that point. And then that was it, man. The roots were down, and that was a permanent thing.
So and then so you're in LA and you're with your friend that's an actor. So were you interested in acting, or?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I hated the grind of acting more than anything, especially back then, where it was like, it's like in LA. The crazy thing is in LA, it's like one audition can be an all-day thing depending where you live, right? It's like, especially then, you have to get your Thomas guide out and find the coordinates, and then you're getting lost and making phone calls at a payphone to try to, it was so crazy, and it was just like it was so taxing, and like I was like, I guess I don't love it, or maybe I just didn't love the process. Like I thought it was fun to act, and I had a little bit of success. I did a couple guest spots, and I was on a soap for I was Chaz the party guy on a soap for a little bit, which was a lot of fun. I admit, like that was pretty fun. But as soon as that was done, I was like, man, I just, I want to write. I had just done a short film in the meantime, and it was one of those things where it was just like, all right, like that's this is a good. Actually, this would be a good testament. I sent a script to my manager, and he goes, my acting manager, and he goes, you know what? He goes, I don't like to read my actors' scripts because then I have to, break their heart. And I was like, just please. So he read it, and he calls me up, and he goes, I'm not gonna lie. He's like, you may be a better writer than you are actor. And I was like, I don't know if I'm happy or sad with my acting manager telling me that. So, anyways, but it was so yeah, it was like one of those things where I kind of just moved into the writing full time and then that led to directing and producing, and so all that came along. And I'm sure at some point in life I will mess around and get back in front of the camera with some of my buddies doing something. But for now, it's
Yeah.
good.
So you're in LA and you're the party guy Chaz. And then so what was your first did you start with some short films, or like what was your first kind of film that you
Yeah,
worked on?
it's interesting because I did a short film. So I do a lot of inspirational movies now. Like that's kind of my bread and butter. It's not everything I do, but it's like that's where I've kind of made my dent, if anything. But my first film was about was about a guy in a clown costume who is dance battling a guy in a giant penis costume. So it was very different. But it won awards, and it was a funny little comedy, and it was one of those things that kind of, I mean, it's funny. It's funny too because each time you do, everything's a step, right? It was like I was winning these awards with this short film, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, this is like the ticket. This is taking you, here you're starting, you're launching." I was like, "Yeah," and then we did the circuit, and it was like, "All right," and then crickets, right? And then the next time, then we rallied some money. We got partnered with some buddies, and we made a movie. Spent $100,000, but we got like the craziest cast. Like it was amazing. It was such a great experience, and and then I brought it to my attorney who had just sold the Hurt Locker the year before, and he was like, "Oh man!" Everyone's like, "Dude, this is it for you. This is to the moon." And then crickets. It's always so. It's been funny. Now the ball's really rolling, but it was like, man, after everything, every little you know small piece of success, it was always like, okay, this is the one. And then you look back, and it was like, man, it's been 20 something years. If I was thinking about, I was talking to my wife, and I was like, if you would have told me it was going to take me 20 something years to get where I am now, if you had told me at the beginning of the journey, which I'm glad I didn't know, I'm pretty sure I would have been like, you know what, I'm just going to go sell insurance. You know what I mean? Like, or something. Like, I don't think I would have done it had I known the path that it was going to take. Now, again, I'm super fortunate and blessed, and I love it, like, because I am doing it, and I have been able to navigate living in LA and doing this. But again, it's like it's super lean times, like there's times, especially once I started having kids and a wife and stuff, it was like there's plenty of days I would wake up and be like, what am I doing with my life? What am I, why am I doing this? Yeah, so it's quite a journey for sure.
So you write inspirational movies. Do you want to share like your first feature, is that the one that you spent $100,000 in 2009, the award-winning New York comedy Rocky Slide?
Oh, yeah, Rock Slide, yeah.
Rock Slide.
That was a crazy experience because it was like Patrick Warburton, who I love, and it was perfect for the role. Like one of the we had a producer that handed him the script, and it was like, he makes more than that on a weekly on his TV series or whatever, and he read it and was like, I'm doing it. And we were like, this is crazy. Like we can't pay you pretty much anything because I don't care. I love it and I like you guys. And I'm like, I'm a first time director. We're first time producers. He's like, let's do it. And then once he came on board, it was like, we had like Jason Alexander from Seinfeld and Leah Thompson, and I'm such an 80s freak. She was there, and Elaine Hendricks, who was awesome, and Eric Roberts, and even like Tom Bergeron from the host from Dancing with the Stars, and it was funny how Andy Dick called up and he wanted to play the bad guy, and Rena Sofer, and anyways, it was really crazy. Like we ended up having all these people just kind of rallying around us for this little movie. And then it got weirder. Like Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains was in it, and Brian Bosworth, the old football player. Like, but it was a blast. It was a trial by fire. It was like I had no idea what I was doing. You know what I mean? I was just sitting down, and I was like, all right, I'm going to direct this movie, whatever that means. No, very little experience on set or anything, and it worked. It was cool.
Yeah, and then after that, then you started having some good luck. You created, and then you sold 4 TV properties back to back and 20 episode orders of the Repo games for Spike TV. I mean, is finally you're getting some traction there. That's
Yeah,
congratulations.
that was really awesome because creating repo games and selling that to Spike actually gave me a little bit of money for about 2 or 3 years, where I was able to keep writing and doing things while I was producing the TV show. But it was like the perfect timing where it was like I was able to buy a house, and not a big house, but at least we had a house, and like those things where it was like all the things I was like, when is this ever going to happen? And that's the weird beauty of the industry, right? It's like that dangling carrot is like, oh yeah, your life could change tomorrow. And I think that's what keeps us, all this in the industry going, is like in some version we're all cowboys and we're all just gunslinging out there waiting for the big hit to come. And so, it's just hard to play it safe, really. And so that was kind of out of nowhere. We hadn't done reality TV. My buddy and I, we had this idea. And so I called my attorney who reps some reality people. And he was like, there's only one person crazy enough to try the show because it's just sounds like a legal nightmare. And so he introduced us to Sally Ann Salsano at 495 Productions. She's done like Jersey Shore, Martha and Snoop. Like they've done a million things. And she was like, I love it. Let's go. And I mean, it was like quick. It happened. And then it was the largest pickup ever in the history of Spike. They ordered 20 episodes right off the bat. And then suddenly I was in a Sprinter van watching 100 live repossessions happen. So it was really cool.
Wow, and that's incredible. And like you said, it's a hard, long journey. And I think as artists, like whether you're a writer, director, producer, actor, you're a multi, I think, most artists that are true artists, they do it because it's in them to do it. Like you have a voice and you want to get that voice out there. And some people don't know where to get it or how to do it. But it seems like you were able to like go, I'm going to direct this film, and you had like the people that were able to come to the table. So that's amazing. So then after your repo games, then you wrote this theatrical feature called The Remaining for Sony. And you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was cool because while I was doing Repo, so like it was funny. I was in a weird spot where like Repo games kind of ended, and we were in between waiting to see if there was a season 3 pickup. And I'd really connected with all the people at 495 Productions, the company, and so they were like, yeah, we're just gonna kind of keep you here. We'll give you a salary. We'll figure out things for you to do until and if the show gets picked back up. And that just turned into like a year of me being there, and it was awesome. But it also allowed me time to basically I had given, it's hard, when you have no credits, right? Like when you have no credits, it is hard to get any traction. I think that's what a lot of people understand too, is like, I've got, people all the time and, they pitch you scripts and ideas. And I'm like, I'm not out there doing spec scripts for the most part. I've got a couple that got sold. Like that's a hard business right now. Like to just write a script and go try to pitch it. So it really doesn't happen that much anymore. Right. And if you have no credits, it almost never happens. And so this was like one of those things where I had passed off some scripts to Rich Peluso, who runs Sony Affirm Films, and he was like, "Hey, you're a pretty good writer, and he's like, "But I don't, I'm not. These scripts aren't for us." And I was like, "All right, that's cool." And he called me out of the blue. He's like, "Got this project. It needs a pretty solid rewrite, but I love the idea. I basically I don't have money right now to pay you. You're gonna have to partner up with the production company that's gonna bring it to us." And so I was like, "I'm sure. I mean, I'm getting paid on this other thing. I got time." So that allowed me to do that, and so it was cool. So we wrote it and kept working it, and then I got it greenlit for us, and then they went and shot it, and it's interesting. It's a faith-based horror film, so that's a very very niche subgenre right there, faith-based horror. So.
And then after your faith-based horror film, the next year you wrote and directed Where Hope Grows, and that was released by Roadside Attractions and Lionsgate Entertainment. So you're just like moving forward. Do you want to tell us a little bit Where Hope Grows? Is that another faith-based type of project?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like faith-based gets a really bad rep, and we've earned a lot of that in a lot of ways. Like, so these movies are like, they definitely have a faith content to them, but they're not. I mean, I don't think it's cool because I feel like they're respected, and that's an interesting place. I'm in a pretty interesting place career-wise where because most of my friends and like a lot of the faith-based crowd is like very Nashville or and they're all it's very small circle. Whereas like I kind of came from all the LA people, and the guys I was writing these scripts with and doing things with, it was like they aren't in the faith-based world. And so in the movies that I've done, my probably my proudest moments are that those movies have been accepted with my other filmmaking friends. They look beyond like a faith label, if that makes sense. Right? They just see it for like, oh, it's a good movie, or it's shot well, or it's done well. We love the music. So I appreciate the art of it on that. So Where Hope Grows was one of those where, we had, I mean, $1,000,000, and it was interesting. I was helping rewrite someone else's story. And it was like this screwball comedy, and they were like, "Hey, we're going to shoot this movie like in Terre Haute. Terre Haute will come support this movie." And I was like, "Man, I don't know if they're going to kind of support this screwball comedy, but I do have another small town movie that I had written like 10 years ago that's just sitting there, and I'd love to just throw it your way and see what you guys think." And then they read it, and it was like, "Yeah, like this is the route to go." And it was really cool. But it was like Hollywood Reporter said it was like one of the first, if not the first, English-speaking films that starred an individual with Down syndrome, and so that was a huge thing for me. Like, there's one of the main characters has Down syndrome, and going into the movie, I didn't know anyone with Down syndrome, even though I wrote the character or whatever. But coming out of that movie and getting to know David DeSanctis, the actor that plays the character of Produce with Down syndrome, his character's name is Produce. Like, that's life changing. That was life altering for me. Like, I'm super close to them to this day. I mean, I've got projects now I'm working on. I try to find, I'm really big into the inclusion part of that, and that was really, that actually changed a lot of the way that I looked at things, because after that, like, I had a face, for someone with Down syndrome. I knew somebody. It wasn't like just a big box or some obtuse label, and that was part of the goal with the movie. I think at this point is that other people were like me that didn't know anyone Down syndrome, they can go watch that movie and suddenly it feels personal to them. You know what I mean?
Well, that's beautiful. Yeah. And so that's amazing that you're going from reality TV to these beautiful films that you're making. And in your film, Where Hope Grows, won numerous awards, including the Audience Award at the Heartland Film Festival. And then
Yeah, and that actually, I'm really proud of that one, because Heartland is kind of like the Sundance of like family and inspirational films. Not faith-based films, because there's other, we've won those awards, like Movie Guide Award or K-Love Award or whatever. But like Heartland, kind of they're quality. So that was very unexpected and very appreciative. I was very appreciative that the audience selected our movie on that one. But it was great. It was great. It was one of those weird things too, where it's like, we did not budget. We did not have a big P&A spend, and we did not budget it well. When we tested our movie that year, and I can't remember what company we used, but our movie tested. It was the highest score that they had of any movies the entire year so far. So we were like, I remember the main producer called me and going, "Are you sitting down? Because you've got a hit on your hands." And it was like, "Yeah." And then it was like, "Well, but we only had, $400,000 left to push the movie once it came out." So it was like, we didn't have a lot of theaters. There was no advertising. I mean, and it was like, but it's found a really cool home on like Amazon Prime, where it's got like 5,000 reviews and stuff. So it's like people have been finding it, and I'm really pushing, and I think it might happen that we re-release it for one day during Down Syndrome Awareness Month in October in theaters. I think I can say that. So we're trying to make that happen right now, which would be amazing.
oh, and what month is that? Because maybe I can put the podcast around that month. What month is
Yeah,
it?
October.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How about yeah, that would be good. I could put this out so we can like help promote your film that you're doing. And let's see, you have so many films that you write, incredible. And then you wrote this beautiful feature drama for the Grammy Award-winning band for King and Country, called, the film that you wrote was called Priceless, and that was released in theaters in 2016, and was nominated for a Dove Award in the category of Inspirational Film of the Year. I've always told people, because like, I was a talent agent, then I did literary management, or still doing literary management. And everyone always wants, dark or horror or action or thriller. And when you say, "Oh, I've got something, inspirational," it's like, what? It's hard to find someone. And then here you are, making these beautiful films. And I always said the world needs this meat and potatoes. When the audience is hungry for these types of films, because there's like, yeah, we love going to all the action movies and the superhero movies and the Marvel movies and the animation movies, but there's, you crave like a good drama, a good inspiration story. I think people need that. And the Criterion Collection back in the day, they had those films like The Bicycle Thief, like The Postman, La Dolce Vita. Like those movies moved you to the core, and they were about relationships, like The Big Animal. I mean, so you here you are doing these like
Yeah.
incredible films.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think now more than ever too, just with the way the world is, people are really hungry for inspirational content, and they just want to go to the movie. Like whereas like when I was growing up, and it's like escapism was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go watch Bruce Willis light up 100 dudes in Die Hard, and that was like my escapism because I'm like, oh, I just need to. And it's like, but now it's like people are like, no, I need a break. Like I just need to go and see that good wins, and like people love each other, and like relationships are real, and so I want to go see those kind of movies. So it actually right now feels like it's kind of the at peak moment for this content is the most important time for this content, that people really are craving it.
Yeah, I agree. I always said, we need meat and potatoes, not just meat only. Not only meat, and we need desserts. We need our desserts. So I think people like a variety, but we're really missing these. Like it's like they almost like it's left to the independent people to make these type of films that like make these beautiful moving stories. Like I remember like Billy Elliot and all those wonderful stories. And like we said, the 80s, I'm like, oh my gosh, just all the wonderful films.
Yeah.
I like John Wick. My mom likes action. She's like, oh, Jason Stratham. She likes Jason Stratham and John Wick and all those. She's like, action. And she's Italian. She's a little
Yeah.
Italian lady. I go, Mom, are you kidding? She's like, and Van Damme and all those karate guys. And she's like, so I have to find action one after another. She's, I've seen that one. And I go, well, they've only made so many.
Well, that's awesome. There's an endless flow of like Steven Seagal movies that are straight to like Amazon Prime now, so she can always catch Steven Seagal with a new movie every month, I'm sure, on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, but she'll tell me, "I've already seen that one." I'm like, "Okay, okay."
That's
And then
great.
and then she likes NCIS, or what is it? That one with like all like I guess your daughter likes those murder mysteries. And I would watch and I would watch it go, "Oh my god, it's like they're killing people." And the guy was at the table, "You ready for your dinner?" And he goes, "Yeah, now he's going to kill her." I'm like, "Mom." And I go, "How do you watch this?"
Yeah, oh, my mother-in-law watches like all the Lifetime movies, and everything on Lifetime is like angry women killing people, and like she loves it. Like I mean, it's like these, you know, docu series, and then there's like these, little movies they make, or like the movie of the weeks. And it's like, man, it is. She digs it.
Yeah, because I think it's just like, "No, I can't believe they did it. No, no." And you're just like, anyone single, I think is like, "That's why I'm single." Because look, as soon as they get married, look what
Yeah,
happens. It's either the
yeah.
the husband or the wife or, the ex-husband or the new boyfriend. You're like so
Justify that singlehood with it. Yep.
yeah, and so, oh my gosh. Well, and so where can they watch your films? You said one was on Amazon, right? You know, let
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Netflix has Blue Miracle, Run the Race, Where Hope Grows. I mean, what's the other ones? Blah blah blah. What do we talk about? The remaining. I mean, you can watch those on Amazon. They were on Amazon Prime. They just moved off that. So they're still on Amazon. You can rent them on all those places. Same thing with Rock Slide. We did a movie that we shot in 8 days. That is called The Man from Nowhere, which I'm super proud of, just by virtue we shot in 8 days, and it's a really solid drama, father son drama. And yeah, and there's just a lot of stuff coming. There's a documentary called Asperger's or Us that I produced that's you can find on Netflix. A docu series on HBO called On Tour with Asperger's or Us that I produced.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna we're gonna invite everyone to come back to part two because I want to talk about your beautiful film, your award-winning film Blue Miracle and all your other stuff. So come back everyone to part two with Chris Dowling because we have so much more to go over his award-winning film Blue Miracle and with Dennis Quaid. So come on back to part two. Thank you for listening. And please download the podcast. Give us a nice 5 stars. If you'd like to support the podcast, buy me coffee Sneakies. Thank you so much.